If you can address sort of this area here.
Okay. Hello, I'm Silvia Mensdorff from FIS, and I'm introducing an insightful report that we've recently conducted in 6 countries, including the UK. We partnered with Ipsos, a global market research firm, to ask consumers what changes they've made when it comes to the pandemic. We were particularly interested in how they've changed their banking, payments, and shopping habits, and what of these changes they believe will persist as the pandemic comes to a close. When you look at financial well-being, there is quite a strong difference depending on people's generation. Millennials were specifically impacted in terms of job loss, but the good news is that a lot of them actually also found new jobs. They are also in a precarious situation when it comes financially, with many of them really only being able to manage life without a job for about a month. On the other hand, Generation X and above are in a much better position and haven't seen a lot of negative impact of the pandemic to their financial situation. When it comes to the changes that people have made in the way they shop, it's pretty divided. Some consumers have readily gone back to their previous habits before the pandemic on the way they shop. But we see a lot of the online shopping habits that have been built up persisting, and some of the pickups from restaurants is something that people have really enjoyed and are taking back in. The other good news, I think, is that consumers have tended to shop more closer to home, and that is something that is also persisting in some of the consumer base. Already before the pandemic, a lot of consumers were making the change from paper to digital payment methods. But of course, the pandemic has accelerated that, with a lot more people picking up their cards instead of cash and shopping online. And once we have overcome the fear of some of that technology, what we're seeing is that consumers are sticking with the easy use and the habit of keeping that shopping digital. The other thing, obviously, is a big shift to contactless, and that is really persisting. Again, it's the ease of doing business here that come through. Obviously, the millennial generation is leading that shift, but also older generations have really picked that up, and we can see those habits that have come in through the pandemic persisting as the pandemic eases. How the consumers interact with the bank has really taken an interesting turn throughout the pandemic. People have found themselves with time on their hand during lockdown and have used that time to investigate what changes they want to make. We found that 1 in 5 have actually picked up a new banking relationship, and that banking relationship is persisting. The reason for doing that is they found better benefits. Another reason is because they wanted to shift from in-branch transactions into digital transactions. And again, as with shopping, we're finding that the ease of use of doing business digitally is a habit that is persisting as the pandemic comes to a close. When you look at personal financial goals, the results are really interesting. What we found is that especially millennials are becoming really financially savvy. They are keen on saving. They set themselves a budget and want to stick to it. And they're particularly saving up for fun for a rainy day, but also in order to buy a house. Again, the pandemic has given a lot of people time, and it looks like consumers have used that time not just to clean up their houses, but also to clean up their financial situation, potentially look at their pension plans, look at their plans for the future. And so as it comes to having consumers that are financially capable, the pandemic has actually been a good thing. As part of the report, we also investigated the use of credit cards, how consumers are responding to buy now, pay later, what they're doing with cryptocurrencies, and how their digital spending habits are going to persist. So I hope you've learned something today about how the pandemic has affected financial health and the behaviors of consumers when it comes to shopping, payments, and banking. You can download the more detailed report with a lot of interesting charts in the link here. And we hope to continue the conversation with you and to provide better services to our ecosystem and the consumers as we go forward. Thank you for your time.